The word downsizing will have different meanings and connotations for different people, depending on who you are and in what stage of life you have reached. Downsizing is a term that originally referred to companies that were trying to reduce their production costs, sometimes by eliminating a part of the workforce and utilizing advanced technology to replace them. Or they found ways to decrease the time necessary to make their products, all in an effort to increase revenue. In the case of automobile makers, downsizing meant making smaller and more fuel-efficient cars, ones which would comply with the standards of the Environmental Protection Agency. It seems that in recent years, downsizing has been used in a much broader sense. For people, downsizing can have various meanings and applications. For the mature couple, married for over 40 years, and having accumulated a multitude of household items, furniture, books, art, and just stuff, downsizing will mean facing a number of challenges. Not only the timing and logistics of moving into smaller quarters, but also the headaches associated with disposing of all that stuff that they no longer need. For a recently married couple anticipating a move from Memphis to New York City to take new jobs, downsizing will mean looking for an apartment which is probably half the size of their current one, but likely twice the amount of rent. For the national football team at the end of preseason, downsizing will mean cutting their roster to the number allowed by the league during the regular season and sending many qualified players off to seek some other form of employment. You get my drift about downsizing. It has both good and bad connotations. Now, for the 70 disciples that Jesus had just recruited, downsizing would have had a much different and certainly a more Spartan definition. Just why Jesus chose the number 70 is not known, but it does reflect upon a story from the book of Numbers in which Moses was instructed by God to gather 70 elders so as to form a group that could assist him in leading the people of Israel. These stories from both Old and New Testaments represent a commissioning from God for developing leaders who could help do his work. So, in today's story from Luke, Jesus gets these 70 new guys, sends them out into the surrounding countryside to preach and teach the gospel, to heal the sick and the disabled. They are to be laborers for the harvest. However, he imposes upon them some rather severe restrictions. They are to carry no money, no extra clothes, no sticks or swords, and only one pair of sandals. Furthermore, he tells them that they will be vulnerable and subject to all kinds of dangers, like roadside bandits and wolves and no telling what else. You might wonder about the wisdom and the mental stability of those 70 disciples, clad only with clothes on their back, venturing out into the wilderness and depending only upon the hospitality of strangers for food and shelter. Were they gullible or naive or foolish? None of the above. I think we have to conclude that their faith was so strong and their belief in God's protection so certain that they willingly accepted their assignments and began their mission without hesitation. They were told that God would give them protection against scorpions and snakes and any enemies they may encounter on their journey. They were to go out in pairs, 2 by 2, not just so they would have someone with whom they could talk and share ideas, but another person who could offer support if one became weak or weary. There was power in having two like minds and bodies. As clergy, sometimes two of us go together on a pastoral visit to a home, a place of assisted living, or to a hospital. Two together seem stronger and more effective than either alone. As a team, we are mutually supportive and we complement each other. We have two sets of eyes, two sets of observations. I think Jesus knew what he was doing when he set up these tag teams. So guess what? The mission of the 70 was successful. Imagine their surprise when they found out they could actually cast out demons and heal the sick. They couldn't wait to get back and tell Jesus what they had done. Man, this is great. Hey, Jesus, this was a piece of cake. Even those wild demons were no match for us. We're on a roll. Jesus, in turn, sensing a bit of rookie overconfidence, would reply something to the effect of, hey, you guys, don't get so big for your britches. It won't always be peaches and cream. Better to not rest upon your laurels. Be grateful, but not proud. He goes on to tell them that it should be reward enough to have their names written in heaven. What they have accomplished is by the grace of God, as well as their faith in and obedience to God. So what does this passage offer as to what we will need for our journey with and for Christ? And how can we get our names written in heaven? Most of us will probably not get by on just one pair of sandals and the clothes on our back and the dependence upon strangers to provide us with food and shelter. What we will need is the willingness to become vulnerable, to accept the challenges that God sends us. It won't be easy to put aside our own needs and wants in order to identify the demons in our midst, meaning those obstacles that stand in the way of our doing God's will. It won't be easy to focus on helping the poor and the needy and those with sickness, disability, and other adversities. We'd much rather be padding our own nest, making ourselves more comfortable, more secure. In the event we have achieved some small successes in doing God's work, it will be tempting to pat ourselves on the back rather than rejoicing in the fact that maybe we have begun to earn a place on that list of names written in heaven. Going out 2 by 2 means taking on God's work as a community, for we all need each other to accomplish it. For persons who have something serious on their minds or are working on an important project at home or work, it's not uncommon to have nighttime dreams which have a bearing on the subject. So here's mine for the week. I dreamed that I was assisting at a wedding right here at Holy Communion. The happy couple were at the altar, gazing lovingly into each other's eyes, but were presently in a holding pattern because they had asked several ministers of other faiths to offer blessings. Waiting in line next to the altar were 2 clergy persons from African American churches, 1 minister each from Methodist, Baptist, and Presbyterian denominations, a rabbi, an imam, and a Hindu leader, all smiling and greeting each other with affection. However, the service went smoothly and was not too long, and the added blessings definitely contributed to the sacred moments of the ceremony. It was a beautiful wedding and a sacramental reminder that we are a community of many faiths and that there are many paths to God's kingdom. In this week, we have celebrated our country's independence. We have sung songs of freedom and taken pride in the spirit of our country. And it's a good time to remember the famous words of Thomas Jefferson from 243 years ago, when he said, "We hold these words to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." It might also be said today that America welcomes religious and social diversity, promotes love for its neighbors, and continues to search for 70 fearless leaders among us. We the people pray for peace in our world and that our names will be written in heaven. Amen.